welcome to Snetterton for the latest round of the GB4 Championship. I'm John Jackson with Piers Pryor alongside me. Last time we were working together, we were at Donington Park for the last round, and it was absolutely dominated by Tom Mills. 3 race wins out of the 4 extended race weekend races. KMR Sport absolutely loving things as well, and you know, he's back. There's always a sort of cloud over Tom. Will he be back? Will he be here? And he is here. He is racing this weekend with KMR Sport. Also, Piers, a great time for Cooper Webster and Colin Queen back at Donington. And Cooper Webster, very, very quick here at Snetterton to start things off.
Yeah, they were the 3 drivers that were right there in all 3 races. We saw some good fighting between all 3 of them, but ultimately Tom Mills was the driver that basically he was his weekend. 3 of 4 race weekends. Unlike to see 3 race winners in a race weekend again, because of the the competitiveness of the championship. But yeah, as you mentioned, Cooper Webster was right there with I think 4 podiums as well, and started off this weekend excellently as well.
Yeah, he has indeed. Obviously, Nicholas Taylor with Fortec was the only other driver that's done that in GB4, getting 3 race wins across the weekend. So huge for Tom Mills. KMR Sport have had a couple of changes, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Lots moving around. But first of all, let's remind ourselves of an excellent weekend last time out in the GB4 Championship at Donington Park.
Highlights from the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC's Donington weekend. 4 races, and the first of those would see Tom Mills starting from pole position, defending from Colin Queen into the first corner. A decent start from the front row, and a decent start from the entire contingent as they would head their way through. Out wide, Jack Clifford would go before rejoining back at the rear of the field behind Thomas Lee. The race down towards the likes of the old hairpin, though, it was Tom Mills under a lot of pressure from Colin Queen. The Fortec driver giving it absolutely everything to try and find a way past Tom Mills in the early stages. Mills felt the pressure but was dealing with it well in the opening stages. Side by side in the background saw the likes of Sid Smith come off the corner side by side with Reynolds, and the pair of those would drag that all the way up towards Redgate. Sid Smith dropping back just a touch, and Liam McNeely working his way through on Fairbairn up towards the Fogarty S. As they would head their way through, again the battles up and down the order were incredible. Unfortunately for Alva, he'd be out wide going through the old hairpin, and that would cost him a couple of positions. Meanwhile, the battle for the race lead was just turning up to 11. Colin Queen keeping very close. Cooper Webster also all over the rear end, and as they were heading on to the final lap, Mills was feeling the pressure. Kulkarni unfortunately made a mistake coming through the old hairpin, out wide and into the gravel before he'd retire from the race. Mills would come into the final corner though, having to deal with all that pressure from Colin Queen behind, and he'd deal with it well, coming across the line to take his 3rd win of the season ahead of Queen and Webster in fantastic fashion. There was a post-race penalty for Queen though that would drop him back a single position. On to the second race of the weekend, and once again Mills from pole position. Cooper Webster though getting a better start than Colin Queen, and he'd work his way up into 2nd position into the first corner. Reynolds as well waiting in the background to try and get his way onto the podium, but Cooper Webster was up into 2nd. Plenty of side by side through the first corner and out wide for one of the KMR Sport cars, and that was only the major drama at the first corner. Liam McNeely trying to get his way into 4th position, getting past the elite motorsports car of Harry Reynolds. Unable to do so just then, almost able to do so just here. Coming through Goddard's, once again Reynolds was defending well. Mills was pulling away to quite a decent margin over the opening stages, but he was being closed in on by Cooper Webster. McNeely would get to the outside of Reynolds, and as they go through Redgate, that was the move done from McNeely. Reynolds would try and come back though into the old hairpin before making this mistake. Around the outside he'd go out into the gravel, out into the grass, and spinning round, dropping down the order. Once again, the fight though for the lead was absolutely on. Cooper Webster, Colin Queen both trying to find their way past Tom Mills and taking a victory for themselves. Sid Smith would go out wide in the final portions of the race before dropping a single position down to 12th in the race. Meanwhile, Tom Mills would come through the final corner to take his 2nd race victory in a row, the 2nd race victory on the Saturday, ahead of Cooper Webster and Colin Queen. And then on to the first race of Sunday, and unfortunately for Alva, it was a jump start. After his personal best qualifying, he'd come through the middle to take over the race lead, but he'd be given a 10-second post-race time penalty, and so the battle was for 2nd. Colin Queen trying to get past Tom Mills into that first corner with a little bit of pushing out wide. Queen was almost able to hang on from his pole position, but Mills was not letting it stop there. Cooper Webster was sat behind as well, trying to find his way into the mix, but it was side by side in that battle for the lead between Mills, between Queen and it was just about Mills working his way through. He'd eventually get past Alva as well before he'd start checking out from the field. Mills looking for 3 consecutive race victories. Cooper Webster down the inside of the number 48 of Liam McNeely as well in the battle for the final spot on the podium, as Webster would work his way through. Not quite on Queen though, and then this mistake from Irfan into the side of McNeely, spinning him round and pushing him out and almost costing him second in the championship. McNeely with a lot of work to do to come through in all of that. Sid Smith and Harry Reynolds will go side by side on the race down towards the old hairpin, with Reynolds working his way back up the order after early issues in the race. And this very late on, unfortunately for Colin Queen, going for a big spin, losing second position. Cooper Webster would come through, Alva would as well, but that 10-second time penalty would once again give that position back to Colin Queen. And then this, coming down to the final sector on the final lap, Clifford into the rear end of Irfan, and both of them going off, costly mistakes from Clifford. And the race lead, of course it was. Tom Mills through the final corner to take his 3rd consecutive victory, this one ahead of Cooper Webster and Colin Queen as well. Another dominant drive. And then, of course, onto the reverse grid race, the final race of the weekend. Harry Burgoyne Jr. starting this one from pole position. A slightly better start from Sid Smith on the race down towards the first corner, but the best was coming from Fairbairn. He dived down the inside to take 3rd position on his KMR Sport teammate, and meanwhile, Durianani was going out wide, heading through that first corner. He dropped right the way towards the back of the field on his debut in the GB4 Championships for Evans Grand Prix. They'd all go side by side, plenty line astern, going up towards the old hairpin, up towards Coppice as well, including this move. That was Kulkarni working his way through. McNeely going around the outside of Alva as well with yet another super send. McNeely was charging forward. He'd got his way past Webster, got his way past Kulkarni, and now was getting his way past Burgoyne Jr. with a fantastic move going into the old hairpin. And unfortunately for Burgoyne Jr., he was dropping backwards. Sid Smith would go out wide, allowing Tom Mills to come through and work his way up the order into 5th as they would work their way down. And then we saw this, one of the best moves in the GB4 Championship so far. Liam McNeely straight around the outside of Fairbairn, and that was for the race lead. Cooper Webster would be the next one to come through before Kulkarni would follow, as unfortunately Fairbairn was beginning to struggle with potential tyre woes in that KMR Sport car. Out of the final corner, Liam McNeely would take a fantastic, stunning victory, having to defend from Cooper Webster all the way through the end of that race. Let's take a look at standings then for the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC after race 9 of the season. Tom Mills topping the standings after 5 victories by an incredible margin over Liam McNeely, who still somehow hangs on to 2nd place. The race victory in the final race at Donington certainly helps that. Cooper Webster with 5 podiums in his last 6 races is in 3rd, with Colin Queen starting to turn around his form in the championship. Jeremy Fairbairn, switch of teams for him, will be in 5th. Then Harry Reynolds, Harry Burgoyne, Aditya Kulkarni, Ruhan Alva and Jack Clifford rounding out the top 10. Behind that, of course, we have Sid Smith, who's had flashes of great pace in his Fox Motorsports car, with Josh Irfan in 12th position. Then we get Dylan Hotchin, Jason Konzo, Thomas Lee and Darianani finishing in 16th in the standings.
An epic weekend for Tom Mills there at Donington Park last time. It means he has an 86-point lead at the top of the GB4 Championship, ahead of Liam McNeely, who we'll hear from a little bit later as well, and also Cooper Webster. Both of those guys on 180 points, which is super impressive. We're starting to see which drivers are going to be challenging for the championship this year. Lucas Blakely, a new name on the grid this weekend, and Piers, he's come from a completely different area of racing, sim racing, and actually he's pretty successful, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's won, I think, the 2022 official Formula One esports championship, so clearly very successful. I've raced against him online as well and can attest to how fast he is on a simulator. And we're going to see in real terms how that translates to real life now, and there's some similarities but also some differences.
Yeah, well, he's driving for KMR Sport. Jeremy Fairbairn, who started the first 3 race weekends with KMR Sport, has now moved to Graham Brunton Racing. We're going to hear from him in just a second as well. So, KMR Sport have a seat spare, and Lucas Blakely's come in, and coming from sim racing to real racing, for me, I'm sitting there going, you know what, you can't just rage quit and start again when it comes to real cars. So, as someone who's raced in the GB3 Championship, as it was known back then as British F3, and you've done sim racing yourself, how do you see the transition going? Because surely, the skills are the same, but it's so much different when you're out there driving these cars for real, because you've got all these different things like wind and different conditions to contend with.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the competition the will to win, the competitiveness, and the baseline level of skills is the same thing. And that's why simulators are such useful tools for drivers all the way up to Formula One, and why drivers train on them but also use them for fun. But there are, as you mentioned, some differences as well that Lucas Blakely will have to get his head around quite quickly, and stuff like you mentioned, it's a little breezy. The wind definitely does affect things. There is wind in simulators a little bit nowadays, but it never is quite as strong and as poignant as it is in real life. And how to get the tyres in, how to get the tyres to work, how to actually feel the car rather than just work on your visual cues and maybe some force feedback. It's just so much more of a whole sensory experience. But I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on, because he's clearly one of the best drivers on the sim in the world. So I think he'll be fine this weekend.
Well, he's obviously got the talent. It's going to be, as Piers say, very, very interesting to see how he gets on. Now, Lewis McGlade, our commentator, is a man that, he, like you, kind of goes across all kinds of racing. He's here in the GB4, GB3 Championship, also huge in the sim racing world. So I think it only seems right that he has a quick chat with our new driver this weekend, Lucas Blakely.
Yeah, cheers, John. I am a bit into my sim racing, that is for sure, and that is why I'm joined here by current reigning F1 Esports World Champion Lucas Blakely, who's jumping in for this round, one round, maybe. We'll have to wait and see. Talk to us a little bit about your preparation coming into this, because it feels like it's kind of all come about last minute.
That's one way to put it. It's been one heck of a week. I mean, only sort of found out about even going testing this week, and to even get the news that I was going racing this weekend has been it's been a roller coaster of emotions. Been such a lot to sort of process. I've kept describing it as like information overload, because Thursday was my first time in the car, also around here at Snetterton as well, which has been so much to absorb and really try and break down. And I think that's something that we've done quite well here at KMR. Jumping in between the sessions, looking at what we're doing, watching back footage, looking at data, trying to really break everything down. It's been a really steady progress in that sort of way. I'm sort of still pinching myself that I'm even first of all here, because if you'd have told me, I think it was 9 years ago when I had to stop going karting because of financial reasons, that you'd be at a race weekend driving a GB4 car 9 years later or whatever it is, it's absolutely insane to me. So I'm just trying to live it, try and enjoy every moment, because obviously there's going to be nerves and excitement and a lot of emotions, but you just got to channel it and try and live it.
Now, when it comes to obviously in the esports side of things, you're highly tuned to win at that kind of level in F1 esports. You've got to be so focused on the data, on the numbers, on the real tiny, minute details. What's it been like transitioning into this? Like you said before, you've been over the data and stuff with the team. What's that kind of been like, learning it from a real world perspective? Is there overlap anywhere in there? Is there kind of stuff that you're learning from one side transferring to the other?
I think the one thing you're never going to get on the sim is just the real world speed. I mean, jumping in these cars for the first time, the speed, especially the high speed stuff, that's what really blew me away a bit. Was I didn't realise just how much speed they had and how much you could really fight the car, and that was a huge sort of eye-opener. Funnily, it's like some of the traits that I have in the sim with my driving style I've immediately just transported onto the car. I mean, ultimately I stopped karting in 2015, and ever since then I've been putting thousands and thousands of hours into sim racing and professional esports, and ultimately the learnings that I've taken from that are planted straight into these GB4 cars. And I'm basically crossing over all of my knowledge that I've gained from practicing sim, looking at data from that, analysing my data from this, I'm basically combining everything together, all my experiences from wherever it's been, whether it's from karting or Racer Champions earlier this year, or even Formula 4 earlier this year, and obviously sim racing. I'm smashing everything together and just trying to let it all flow as best as possible. And it's been a massive challenge. Hello, car. It's all good. It's been a massive challenge, something that I've not underestimated, which is tried to keep an open mind. I don't come in with any ego or expectation. I just arrive, try and do the best I can, and every session that I've went out has sort of gotten a bit better, which has been the main thing, I guess. So I'm really happy with how things have gone so far. I'm just sort of head down, trying to keep doing better every time I go on the track, but I'm loving it. It's been dream come true. Can't really put it any other way.
Now, speaking of Race of Champions, just a little bit, because I do know, I remember when you beat Sebastian Vettel, was it in the RC2 car, something like that, obviously in Sweden? Now, obviously, you've not got that much experience in a car. Do those kind of things, does that kind of give you like this little extra kick that maybe you have got something like deep inside you, like that kind of like that just raw skill? Because if you can do that there, what are the expectations of this? What are your goals for this weekend?
I'm just drawing, when I come into this weekend, again, it's just trying to keep an open mind, trying not to set an expectation on myself, because you don't want to build yourself up in your mind and then maybe not meet a certain target. So ultimately I draw my inspirations from, some of it's also from, Race of Champions, because in that situation it was very, everything was sort of very level, everyone's jumping in with the same very limited practice, and it's sort of just drive it and go, and I'm ultimately transferring, the good bits from every area that I've competed in. Is, sim racing ultimately is a lot of grind, a lot of laps, and a lot of perfectionism. And I mean, that's where I have to almost draw back a little bit, because I try and be too perfect when I'm looking at, video and data. I basically get too angry at myself. I'm like, I'm not doing this right, I'm not perfect enough in this way, and ultimately, the team's, done KMR, SD team have done a great job at keeping me grounded, and, saying, look, you're not going to be perfect, you're not going to be, just relax, don't be so hard on yourself, and just build up to it in a methodical manner. And it's been, they've done a really good job at keeping me on the right track, especially with the mental approach as well. I'm very, very good at overcomplicating things, and they've kept me on a good track in that way. So big thanks to SD team and KMR for even making this whole weekend possible. I mean, I couldn't leave here without saying a big thanks to them, because this has been a dream come true, as I say, and I'm still struggling to believe. I mean, hearing all the cars going around and looking at, even seeing my number 80 on a GB4 car is something that I didn't think would ever happen. I have this saying that I adopted when I was younger with my dad when we were go-karting. It's called chasing the dream, and I always somehow find a way to come back to it. We're always chasing that dream more and more, and it just somehow keeps coming back to those three words keep coming back to me in some way or form in life, whether it's the racing or sim racing. I keep chasing the dream. And I don't know, I've obviously got a lot to still work on, but I think, we've done well so far, so let's just keep our heads down and see what happens.
Well, Lucas, thank you so much. Now, obviously, with there being one car in the background, which has been taken over by Lucas Blakely, that means there's been a bit of an opening and a bit of a change up elsewhere in the paddock. We're going to head over to John now, who's with Jeremy Fairbairn.
So Jeremy Fairbairn now driving with Graham Brunton Racing for the first time this weekend after switching from KMR Sport. A new team and a new sort of prospect ahead of you this weekend.
Yeah, new team. I'm really liking it so far, getting along with the guys all very well. So I can't complain. Just finding that last bit of time in the car and setup, and we'll be right there. I'm confident.
So you obviously did the 3 race weekends with KMR Sport, and you've decided to make this decision. What are you hoping for the rest of the season with Graham Brunton Racing?
Some good results, hopefully some podiums, and potentially some wins if we can get it together. That's really the main goal.
Obviously a couple of days of testing before we get to the race days here this weekend at Snetterton. What do you make of this track? Is it one of your favourites, or is it one that's maybe a bit more challenging?
Yeah, I like this track a lot. It matches my driving style quite well, so I'm pretty confident here.
One of the other bonuses of being with Graham Brunton Racing is you get to work with Max Maserati, obviously, a big character around the paddock and did incredibly well last year. How's it been like working with him? I know you've worked with him a couple of times.
Yeah, I like Max a lot. It's great working with him. I worked with him back in 2021 at the Formula Ford Festival, so we've known each other for a while now and we get along well. So.
Excellent stuff. Well, great to catch up, and best of luck this weekend making your debut for Graham Brunton Racing.
Thank you very much.
We're here in the assembly area now. Cars just preparing to go out. Cooper Webster on pole position. Tom Mills, the championship leader, just behind him, Piers. This is going to be a real battle, and you can't count out Colin Queen just behind them.
No, exactly. Those three pretty much every race this year, isn't it? And Cooper Webster for the first time making the fastest lap time in qualifying. He'll be hoping to pull away 2 new tyres on his left-hand side, whereas everyone else going with 2 used, so potentially a bit of a pace advantage for him as well.
Yeah, there we go. With Colin Queen, the red and white number 62 car, Lucas Blakely. It's going to be really interesting to see how he goes. He is in the blue and grey KMR Sport car, starting P4, his first race in GB4. Obviously, we've heard what he's done in the world of sim racing. It's going to be absolutely incredible to see how he gets on as we watch Thomas Lee at the back there with Dylan Hotchin going out onto the track. This is the first race of the GB4 Championship this weekend at Snetterton. Let's go racing.
And so a return to where it all began. The GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, began here at Snetterton last year. It has been a long journey, a fantastic championship, a fantastic campaign in 2022 saw Nicholas Taylor take the title, and at the moment it is Tom Mills in charge of the 2023 season. Is that, though, how it is going to unfold? During this weekend we will pass over halfway through the championship. 21 races from start to finish, and this one the start of round 10 of the championship. We've done our Donington Park Super Weekend, and some decent progress was made from a whole contingent on the field, most notably, of course, that of Cooper Webster and Colin Queen, and yet still, despite that movement forward, they did not have enough to take on Tom Mills. Is this the weekend where that all starts to change? Nerves are at an absolute high on the grid. It is going to be a difficult test for all these drivers, that is for sure. It's a difficult circuit. We were saying about this back in the GB3 race, in GB4 as well, when you've got less downforce, still 160 brake horsepower, so plenty of power going just to the rear wheels. These cars slip and slide their way around the Norfolk countryside. Cooper Webster on that pole position, who's done a fantastic job. Tom Mills will be starting alongside him in second. Then, of course, we get Colin Queen in third, the same top three that we had for the majority of the Donington Park round. And then newcomer to the championship, it is 2022 Formula One Esports World Champion Lucas Blakely starting from fourth. Harry Burgoyne Jr. will start from fifth position ahead of Liam McNeely, the driver that still hangs on to second in the championship after that race victory back in Donington Park. Ruhan Alva has showed some great pace as well back in Leicestershire, alongside Jeremy Fairbairn after his movement over from the KMR Sport team over to Graham Brunton Racing. Sid Smith will start from 9th position. Aditya Kulkarni will start from 10th for Fortec. And then behind that, we've got Jack Clifford after a few struggles in his KMR Sport car, alongside Dylan Hotchin in 12th. Of course, the final row of the grid will see Thomas Lee for the Evans Grand Prix team. We're in a lovely GB4 Championship sandwich with some delicious Evans Grand Prix bread, one at the front and one at the back. Once again in the commentary booth, it's myself, Lewis McGlade. Piers Pryor has made the journey over to the commentary booth to talk us through this one, and the big question is, can Cooper Webster do it?
My money's on Cooper Webster for this one. He really wants a race win. He's gone pole position, and he's got 2 new left-hand side tyres. I don't know if you heard me on the grid. Yes, he's the only driver I could see on the grid, or at least in the top 7 or 8 drivers that I could see from my position on the assembly area, that has taken 2 new left-hand side tyres. So it should give him a little bit of a pace advantage, at least in the first sort of half to 2/3 of this race, once he gets them fired up, which shouldn't be an issue today in the warm sunshine here at Snetterton.
Yeah, it's been, like we said in the GB3 race, if you watched that, if you joined us for that earlier, there had been a few sprinkles of rain just before the race. We have not had anything since. It has been kind of humid. It's been a bit thick out there. It's been warm out there. That is the important bit. When it comes to the championship, of course, Tom Mills leading the title race. He's got 266 points. He's 86 clear of 2 drivers at the moment. The first of those being Liam McNeely, Cooper Webster on the same amount of points, both of them on 180. But McNeely's consistency is what's kind of been keeping him in there in that second spot. When it comes to pace, Cooper Webster has been the main driver to take it. In all 4 races at Donington Park, he finished second place. This is surely the race he moves one further forward. But then, of course, we have to talk about Lucas Blakely. Can he get on the podium in his first race in GB4?
It would be great to see Lucas Blakely get a podium in his first GB4 race. He's so impressive to jump in the championship pretty much straight away and be 4th in qualifying. It's impressive because he's not done any testing other than Thursday and Friday this week. He's not prepared at all. I was speaking to him earlier on, literally on Wednesday. He got the, Wednesday thinking, oh, maybe I'll be out for a test this weekend and then turn into a race seat.
Yeah, and awkwardly enough, starting there alongside the Graham Brunton racing car. Not the one that he's replaced, don't worry. That one is Harry Burgoyne Jr., who's had a great qualifying session there. He'll be starting from 5th. They all find their way into their grid spots. Just a single formation lap here in GB4. That weather has stayed put, and it is Cooper Webster on pole position. 18 minutes goes onto the clock. Thomas Lee finds his way into his grid position, and look at that aggressive position that the Graham Brunton racing car, 5th in shot, Harry Burgoyne Jr. is on the grid. We're going to get racing here for the first race at Snetterton, and Cooper Webster, surely that is a jump start for Cooper Webster. It's a slightly slower one. It looked a little early to me. It seems like he's translated quite well. We'll have to see the update from race control. Going to the outside, you've got Alva working their way through. You've got Sid Smith on the inside in that number 99. But I don't know about you. Did that look like a jump start to you?
I couldn't see the lights, but it looked like a good start, whatever happened. So it's a great start to the race for Cooper Webster. Hopefully he timed it to perfection and not slightly earlier. There's fighting further down the field, but he's already got 2 or 3 car lengths, which we know is hard to gain in this GB4 championship.
Yeah, it's looking a bit sketchy here through the mid-pack out wide there. That's Sid Smith just trying to get himself back online, dropping only a couple of positions. Here's Harry Burgoyne Jr. Trying to fend off Ruhan Alva in that 27 down the inside. Harry Burgoyne Jr. 4th position for him in all of this as he's trying to pull his way forward because Blakely has dropped backwards a fair amount. But at the moment, it is a big lead for Cooper Webster, who's already trying to pull himself away. Kilcarney taking the defensive line from the number 3 of Jack Clifford.
Jack Clifford looking on the inside and then the outside of Oggies. It's quite hard to overtake there, not a particularly long braking zone. As you can see the rubber that's laid down on the circuit here, if you just move off the race line ever so slightly, you'll be on the marbles. But Cooper Webster continuing to extend that gap at the front of the field.
I don't know if there's any note from race control. I don't see anything at the moment as there is Liam McNeely trying to get down the inside of Ruhan Alva. McNeely in that number 48, the driver second in the championship, making contact with the Fortec car in the 27, who comes over to take an extremely defensive line as they head their way towards Bombhole. They're now firing their way through Coram. This final section, look at how far wide Ruhan Alva is as he comes back in to take the racing line. Liam McNeely all over the rear end, as well as Jeremy Fairbairn on his debut. That's a big slide and an excellent catch for Ruhan Alva, but surely he's going to lose some positions here.
I thought Alva was going round there. The opposite luck he had to that corner was extreme and somehow didn't even get that bad of an exit. So clearly that car set up pretty loose as they're fighting further back, but that is looking around the outside. Liam McNeely not going to be able to do that there. Can he get a switch back? Oh no! That is Blakely. Oh, disappointment for Blakely, just getting forced slightly wide, maybe showing his lack of real-world car racing experience, because you have so many more sensors going on. You have to use your spatial awareness a bit more than in sim racing, as Jack Clifford goes wide at the Wilson hairpin on the exit. Doesn't lose a place, though.
Yeah, no, I know here is Lucas Blakely then going to rejoin the circuit. Of course, he said, when we were talking to him earlier, his nerves are going to be really, really high. Whilst he has done a fair amount of little bits of racing here and there, bits of Formula Ford and whatnot, this is still a big, big step forward. And, these guys, they do like to get their elbows out every now and then, and it certainly got on the wrong side of it. Might be a little bit frustrating, but it's a big learning experience. First lap completed of what is an expected 10-lap race, with it being 18 minutes. We should get 10 laps onto the board. So the first of those down, and it is an 8/10 lead for Cooper Webster, who's already started to make a gap on the rest of the field. That's another slow exit, though, from Ruhan Alva, and this could be a big one from Liam McNeely.
Yes, Liam McNeely's going to look up the outside of Brundle, which would put him in the inside of Nelson. You can kind of overtake either side here, so defending is somewhat as tricky as that. Round the outside goes McNeely, braking nice and late. All he has to do is get a good exit, otherwise Alva will try and cut underneath him. Job done there from McNeely, up one place.
Yeah, he's charging at the moment as they go through the likes of Bomho up towards Coram again. McNeely, like we've said, whilst he's sometimes struggled on speed, he's sometimes struggled in qualifying, he certainly has the pace and the racecraft to work his way forward. That is the reason he has stayed second in the championship. Once again, Ruhan Alva with a big slide as they depart the final corner at Murray's onto the centre straight, the start-finish straight, to complete the second lap of the race. And that gap for the race lead, fastest lap has just been set by Cooper Webster. The gap has gone to just under 1 second. He is charging. He's desperate to make it not only a 5th consecutive podium, but of course a race victory in all that as well.
Yes, but Mills is not going down without a fight. He actually set the fastest middle sector of the race, even though his overall lap time was a couple of tenths slower. But it looks like Alva's now going to be shortly coming under pressure from the mover that in terms of teams, which is Fairbairn. Fairbairn just finding his feet in that new team. It's always interesting when you change teams, because all teams will have a slightly different philosophy in how they set up the cars and how they feel to drive and how to get the most out of them. Even though they're all the same machinery, you know, it's just the springs, the dampers, settings, the roll center, everything, the ride height and stuff. You can do different bits and pieces, and some teams will like to set the cars up a bit more on the nose, a bit more oversteery, some a bit more understeery, maybe different aerodynamic settings. And that's part of the interesting thing about us. Oh, so going wide, that is Kulkarni dropped to 2 wheels on the grass going into Williams there, but unfortunately losing some time. But it looks like he's going to manage to continue. Yeah, he's in the background there, so he's continuing on, but has lost some time off the back of the Fox Motorsport car there, number 99 of Sid Smith.
It's so easy to do though, isn't it? Running wide, going through the corners, likes of Williams. A lot of these corners, they push the front end out wide. You know, when you think of that, you think of Palmer as well, the run through Hamilton. I mean, seeing it on the onboard lap that we got a little bit earlier on, of course, when we had that onboard lap from Cooper Webster, particularly through Hamilton, the front end, it almost just seemed a bit lazy, a little bit difficult. There is not much aero on these cars. There's still, obviously plenty to do a fast lap time, as here comes Sid Smith on Jack Clifford to try and make the move, going around the outside of T1 at Riches. This is going to be a big one. He's going to have to try and clear him on the start-finish straight. It's not been a great exit from Clifford, who's going to try and remain side by side through the first corner. The pair of them are going to go through. They're going to give each other space on the exit as well, maybe even a little bit too much space, a little bit too much respect. And Jack Clifford holds the defensive line coming down to the Wilson hairpin, and Sid Smith is unable to get through.
No, he's not unable to get through this time. However, he's still well positioned for a move up to Agostini if he can concentrate on getting a good exit out of Palmer's, which is this corner, turn 3. It looks like he's just washing ever so slightly wide, but Agostini is one of these corners where you can dive from quite late. We've seen it in GB3 and GB4 in seasons gone by, and he's looking up the inside. Can he get it done? Oh, he's locked up, nearly contact. Clifford gives him just enough space, but they hold station once again.
That is very, very sketchy indeed, but wow, they are pushing each other to the limit in all of this, which is exactly what we expect. Not quite halfway through the race, this is the battle for 8th position on the road, and like I say, at the moment it is going the way of Jack Clifford, who, again, I've said it before, continues to struggle a little bit in qualifying. I don't know quite what it is, because Clifford does actually have some decent pace. He shows flashes of it. Speaking of which, by the way, Colin Queen with the fastest lap of the race, and the top 3 are pulling away from everyone else. Where have we seen this before?
We've seen this pretty much every race this season, haven't we, Lewis? It's Webster, Mills and Queen, the top 3 that are pretty much the class of the field, especially in this first half of the season. Hopefully we'll see some more drivers getting their pace up to the front 3 towards the end of the season. But I must say I've been very impressed with Harry Burgoyne Jr. this weekend in 4th place, the number 68 Graham Brunton racing car, because he has been generally sort of towards the lower end of the top 10 for most of the season so far. But, on merit in 4th place and holding off the likes of McNeely and Alva at the moment. Here we go, replay the start list. Oh, definite jump start. Oh, no.
Has anything come through from race control
Nothing yet, but it looks like Cooper Webster was rolling before anyone else had. And he mentioned that at the previous round, didn't he? Or some of the drivers did. If you're there on the rev limiter and when it's nice and hot, it can sometimes just cause the car to. I really, really hope that was just as the lights went out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be. Obviously, I did call that quite early. That is not me being a clairvoyant. That's like I hope that wasn't a jump start. Quite like Cooper Webster, and we don't want those kinds of things to happen. They're so easy to do so, and like I say, might have just pushed it a little bit too far. But do remember, what was the round? Was it 2017, 2018? Valtteri Bottas
It might have even been earlier than that, might have been 2016. Valtteri Bottas had a start that was so close to the lights going out. I think they actually deemed it as a jump start because it was faster than what a human reaction could be.
Yeah.
So it was something very odd in that kind of vein. And I do wonder if we have anything like that. But like we say, we've had no word from race control just yet. If it is a penalty, though, if memory serves, it would be a 5-second post-race time penalty. So we would still be on the podium. He is, though, having to deal with some pressure. Whilst the lap times are very close, by the way, it's 2 thousandths of a second on the previous lap between Cooper Webster and Tom Mills in favour of Tom Mills. So that gap's come down by the tiniest of margins.
Yeah, so it's pretty much holding station. It'll be interesting to see what the gap is as they come over the line for the the fifth time now. So a fastest lap of the race from Cooper Webster by almost 0.3 of a second. So actually he's opened the gap out by 0.3, especially in that last sector. He was right on it with the purple last sector. And Burgoyne actually lapping pretty fast. Well, not far off the pace of the front three, although McNeely actually not far off. He's gapping or reducing that gap to Burgoyne by about 0.4 of a second. So we're probably going to have a fight for fourth place on in a not too distant future.
Like I say, McNeely, whose eyes at the moment really are focused on trying to hold on to second in the championship for as long as possible. At this rate, he is almost certainly losing it, in the sense that he is joint on points with Cooper Webster. As here comes the comeback charge then, so Lucas Blakely ticks one off, gets past Thomas Lee into the first corner, and right now this becomes effectively a sort of extended test session for Lucas Blakely. At the moment, his lap times are running roughly a second and a bit off of the top times.
Yeah, very similar to the pace that Burgoyne Jr. is doing in fourth place. So that was about where he was on circuit when he went off. So not doing himself a disservice whatsoever, Blakely. And every lap he can do in this car will give him more confidence and give him more, experience for him to be able to push on tomorrow. And I think there's a good chance he can get a top 5 tomorrow, if not even a podium.
Yeah, there is some serious potential with that indeed. But that's where you, like I say, you just need to keep doing as many laps as possible, especially in as much as you've had a spin, you've had an issue in the race. It's still racing conditions. It still counts. It's still experience. Fastest second sectors just come in from Tom Mills. Fastest first sector on this lap though by Cooper Webster. They are getting faster and faster and faster. Expected 4 laps left to go in this race. Cooper Webster with the advantage, and he crosses the line. Is it going to go out from 1.259 seconds, or is it going to remain in that cap? It's gone out by a couple of hundredths, but nothing major. Fastest lap of the race though goes the way of Colin Queen. So they're all just trading laps. That shows how close that top 3 is.
It's been like that all season, hasn't it? We've said it before and we're going to have to keep saying it again. Those 3 are almost inseparable on pace, and it's almost basically who gets the best lap in qualifying for that specific race then makes the difference about who basically is in what order in the race.
You can see Fairbairn on his debut for the Graham Brunton racing team. I quite like the 87 without the white block around it, the number without the white block around it, what you've got on Harry Burgoyne Jr.'s car. I think that's quite a fetching livery at the moment for the Graham Brunton racing team. He spoke highly of the team since he's jumped in behind the wheel. Of course, it's only been for this weekend. We'll have to wait and see how that was. Ex-KMR Sport driver as he's trying to get past Ruhan Alva and up to 6th position in the race. Of course, we have seen Fairbairn with some incredible speed this season. Remember back to the first race of the championship?
First race of the championship.
The wheel-to-wheel fight with Tom Mills all the way through was brilliant.
Oh, hang on. That was Alva hitting something on the circuit, whether it was a small animal or whether it was a piece of debris. Hopefully it hasn't damaged the car, but there was definitely something that he hit on circuit there. Hopefully it was just it looks like something in the radiators as well. Maybe a bit of polystyrene. Maybe it was something that his teammate Kulkarni dragged onto the circuit.
Oh,
Someone's gone well wide on the exit of Nelson.
I think that must have just been McNeely putting 2 wheels out there. I think we've just seen them come through the foregrounder shot. That dust will linger around on the circuit. Yeah, I'm not sure. Whoa, my goodness me. That was a big moment from Ruhan Alva. He keeps it on the road. I mean, I've got to say, Nicholas Taylor's taught him how to wheel a car around, isn't he? My goodness.
He's wringing the neck of that Fortec Motorsports car there, the number 27 white and red car in the front of shot with the green highlights. Clearly pushing on because that car is on the limit of adhesion. Cooper Webster with another fast lap of the race pulls that gap out to nearly 2 seconds now. So he's trying to get 5 seconds on the group behind regardless of what happens with the penalty. But you can still see that bit of debris in the radiator protector grills on Alva's car. It looks like he's all good because he's maintaining that gap to Fairbairn behind.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of debris, especially in the left-hand side grille. Right-hand side, when you look head-on, you can kind of see in the right-hand side, basically just behind the suspension, you've got quite a lot of that white debris that's sort of in there. It's not blocking over too much, it seems, and certainly in what is effectively a sprint race, it should still be fine, especially with only 3 laps left to go.
Yeah, that amount of blockage is not an issue. The engine temperature might rise a couple of degrees, but nothing crazy. It's only when you start to fill the radiator ducts with grass and dust that then the engine temperature can rise to a level where it will start to reduce power or potentially cause some damage. So no worries there. All Alva has to do is keep it nice and clean and tidy as best he can. And it's quite difficult to overtake around the Snetterton 300 circuit because of a lot of medium and high-speed corners, and it's quite narrow. So unless he makes a mistake, it's difficult. You're pointing at something on the back of the shot, Lewis.
There was something on the straight, in the middle of the straight. I wonder if we'll see it again. So as we're coming around now with Dylan Hotchin and Lucas Blakely going through Williams, there is something in the middle of the straight. Now, my question to you is, how much can you see things like this? I don't know if we can see it from this shot.
Just a little something.
Kind of just see it here. Just on the right-hand side. I say here, I've just pointed at the screen as if you can all see it at home. I've just pointed out as Blakely makes the move down the inside.
Oh, attempts to make a move up the inside of Dylan Hotchin, but doesn't quite make it done. But yeah, you've got good vision, to be honest. You can't see very much directly in front of the cars, but because the circuits are so flat, you can see the circuit a long way in the distance, and you can see something coming. And the drivers, that's one thing you have to learn when you move from karts into car racing, or even just do car racing for the first time, is how far ahead of yourself you have to look. These drivers will be looking, 50, 60, 70, 100 meters further ahead than where they actually are. You're looking at the braking point for the next corner as you're exiting the previous corner, and then as soon as you get anywhere near the braking point, you're then looking at the apex, and as soon as you turn in, you're then looking through the exit of the corner. Here we go. It looks like...
Oh, it is almost... That is almost certainly...
A piece of polytyrene?
No, I think that might have been an animal of some description.
No. A small animal has met its sorry end on the front of the...
I think so. I don't want to say for sure.
That is really unfortunate. Generally, the animals don't tend to join the circuit because, of course, they get scared off by the noise of the cars. But all that matters at the moment in terms of the race is that the cars are undamaged, and Cooper Webster still romping away at the front of the field. That gap over 2 seconds now as he set the fastest lap on that previous lap once again, and then went purple in the first sector again.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's once again just finding so much speed on it. You got to ask the question though, maybe he's overdoing his tyres a little bit, maybe he's overdriving it a little bit, who knows. At the moment he's absolutely flying. There will be 2 laps. Oh, excuse me, I'm committing. Yeah, sorry, it'll be 1 lap after this.
This is the penultimate lap because it's going to be 48, 49. Yeah, so this is probably the penultimate lap now, but I think Cooper Webster might have pulled a great strategy here, because even if it rains in just one of the races tomorrow, he has made the most use of his brand new left-hand side tyres. Of course, 6 tyres for the whole race weekend in GB4.
Yeah, I explained it a little bit again in GB3, but just to clarify to everyone watching, if you are new to the championship, effectively the way it is in GB4 is, rather than the 2 sets of tyres that you get in GB3, you get a set and a half, so 6 tyres that you can use as you see fit, but you have to use that through 1 qualifying session and 3 18-minute races across the weekend, and everyone has the same allocations. What honestly I think is an excellent form of strategy, because you've got, yes, it's good to also kind of keep the budgets a little bit down. The team, it's just 6 tyres they're paying for over the weekend rather than new tyres for every single race, but also there's a lot of strategy to it. Big slide there from Tom Mills, and it's those kind of things you want to avoid, because anything like that could cost you, not in this race over the next 48 seconds, but in the next race later on down in the weekend, maybe even on that reverse grid race. Maybe you don't have the tyres to come back on the attack. You've got to play the weekend as a whole, and that's where you see the very best drivers coming their way through.
Yeah, and planning a weekend is all about tyre strategy. Do I burn my tyres up now and try and get 1 more position, or do I consolidate my position, save a bit of rubber for the end of the weekend? But the weather for tomorrow is definitely looking changeable, but Tom Mills is still pushing on because Colin Queen is mounting the pressure on. We saw a slide from Tom Mills earlier on this lap. There's only 1 more overtaking opportunity for Queen in third place. It's into this last corner, but it doesn't look like he's quite close enough. You can see him fighting at the wheel.
Yeah, he is wrestling as hard as he can. We come down into that final sector. Cooper Webster's going to come out. The timer is going to tick down to 0. And just about as they cross the line, Cooper Webster takes the checkered flag to take his first victory in the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Tom Mills, championship leader, just about comes across the line in second place, halting off the charge of Colin Queen. Then Harry Burgoyne Jr., what a sensational drive. He's had a fantastic round so far in that qualifying session, and he's showing the pace that he's got. Fourth position on the road for him, McNeely behind, then Alva, Fairbairn, Clifford, Smith and Kulkarni will be your top 10. Obviously, we've not had any note from race control about Cooper Webster, and this is the kind of thing where I get the feeling that if it was going to be a jump start, we would have heard about it now. I think he has got quite lucky.
He's done very well there. It's a great drive. Clearly quite a good start there, and then pulled away. He was the fastest car on circuit quite considerably. His fastest lap on, I think, was the last, no, not the last lap, the penultimate lap. 47.0 was 3 or 4 tenths faster than anyone else. He'll be very, very happy with that.
Yeah, certainly so. He has put on a brilliant, brilliant show. As Cooper Webster taking his first victory. And like I said, it's his 5th consecutive podium. He is looking very consistent in the Evans Grand Prix team. He's been moving his way forward. This will obviously solidify his 2nd in the championship. He came into this round a joint 2nd in the championship, but after 10 races, he finally closes in the gap just a little bit to Tom Mills by 5 points. Cooper Webster then will take the 35 points for victory in the provisional results for round 10 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Tom Mills in 2nd and Colin Queen are rounding out the podium. Harry Burgoyne Jr. and Liam McNeely round out the top 5, with Ruhan Alva in 6th place. Fairbairn on his debut for Graham Brunton Racing will be in 7th, with Jack Clifford, and then Sid Smith and Aditya Kulkarni rounding out the top 10. Lucas Blakely was able to recover to 11th position on the road, getting past Dylan Hodgson after that move late on, and Thomas Lee finished a lap down in 13th in the 2nd of the Evans Grand Prix cars. So into the podium area what they will go, and Cooper Webster, who I remember how frustrated he was in the first race of Donington Park when he saw people exceeding track limits, you know, and Colin Queen did get a penalty in doing so. I don't think there's going to be much negativity for the number 37 as he comes into the pit lane and will drive his way into 1st place and will eventually climb to the top step of the podium. It's actually his 7th podium in the championship, 7th podium in just 10 races. The other results are an 11th, a 9th and a retirement. That is why it's taken him so long to get ahead of Liam McNeely. He has had the pace, he's had the consistency, to be perfectly honest, but it's those 3 races, issues potentially out of his control, potentially, well, within his control, but inexperience, just costing him ever so slightly. Out of the car, and again, handshakes from all those around, including his competitors and team manager and stuff. You can see there on the right-hand side, Colin Queen out of the car. And these 3 drivers, not in this order, of course, it was Tom Mills, then Cooper Webster, then Colin Queen, but these 3 drivers were on the podium in 3 of the 4 races back in Donington Park. They were the class of the field, and this is actually the 5th time all 3 of them have been on the podium this season together. Of course, the other time was the 2nd Silverstone race, where now we can go and catch up with our podium once again, of course, the same one as always, from John Jackson.
We'll just give him a second, Cooper Webster. You know, he's driven a race. He's going to have a little conversation here. Not allowed to talk to him technically until he's put his hat on. There we go. His hat is on. Cooper, I've got to chat to you on here. I mean, this is your 5th podium in a row now.
Yeah.
Must feel great to be on the top step.
Yeah, finally. You know, finally to break through, you know, all those 2nd finishes and the tough start at the start of the season. It feels really good. Yeah, really good. So, and then to do it like that and to just pull away in front of the rest of the field, I'm over the moon.
Now, they've been talking a lot during that race on your start. It looked like it was probably the perfect start, but a lot of people saying it was potentially, you know, maybe a little bit too quick. We've not heard anything though. So Lewis on the commentaries suggesting that it was all good. But I mean, that start was what set you up, really.
No, that's right. Yeah, that start really made it quite straightforward. You know, I didn't have to fight Tom down to turn 1 or to turn 2, but no, I thought my start could have been better. I got a little bit of wheel spin, I think, but the reaction was just really good. So, yeah, I don't think it was a jump start. Like, I felt pretty comfortable from my side, but I think if you ask Tom, he would say he didn't get a very good start.
I'm going to ask Tom in just a second. Obviously, you're on pole position for the second race tomorrow as well. More of the same?
Yes, yeah, more the same, more of the exact same. Yeah, I will try to copy that race completely.
Excellent stuff. Cooper Webster, your winner in the GB4 Championship. I'll let you go and celebrate, and I'm going to go and ask Tom Mills right now. Let's see if we can find him. Celebrating with his legions of fans here. The man in red you're going to see here, Matt Acton. A huge character around the paddock, great photographer, chatting to Tom Mills. Tom, how are you doing? It looked like a great start from Cooper there, with suggesting whether it was maybe a bit too quick. What do you reckon?
I was looking at the lights, so
I'll tell you now, we've not heard anything about it.
Yeah, I could see in my peripheral it was a small amount of movement, but I was looking at the lights. But yeah, anyway, forgetting that, he drove a brilliant race. So my car was a bit of a handful. So the best I could do was second, and that's what I did. So it was a good race in the end.
Still a good amount of points though, and you have got quite the lead at the top of the championship. So going into the second race and the third race tomorrow, you must be still feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I'm always going to feel good. It was still second, where I started. I think that's where our pace is this weekend. So yeah, it was good just to do a clean race without any mistakes. And yeah, Cooper took the 2 new tyres then, and we'd save them for tomorrow. So I think me and Colin might be a bit closer to him tomorrow.
Excellent stuff. Well, look, another trophy, another podium for you, Tom. We'll let you continue celebrations there with everyone he's with. Let's go and chat to Colin Queen. Hey, Colin Queen driving with Fortec, and it feels like it's just me chatting to you, to Cooper, and to Tom, because you guys are just dominating the podiums at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's basically what's going on at the moment. We're basically running the same speed, same consistency, and no one's seeming to make any mistakes. So, yeah, we got good information for the tires for tomorrow. They didn't really fall off that much, which was good. So yeah, starting P2 should give us a better shot. But yeah, starting P3, it's difficult when everyone's on the exact same pace.
Yeah, and obviously you're starting alongside Cooper tomorrow, whereas you were starting behind him today. His start was very, very quick. Did it look like he was maybe a bit too quick, or do you think it was okay?
I wasn't watching. I was watching the lights. No, definitely not. I genuinely don't know. I was just watching the lights. Focus on that.
Okay, good. Well, look, best of luck tomorrow. Congratulations, P3, Colin Queen with Fortec. We'll let you go and get on the podium now. I believe the podium will be taking place in just a second. Cooper Webster behind me is just getting a team photo with everyone, so I don't know if the podium's entirely ready at the moment. You can see lots of people celebrating there. Thomas Lee's team from Evans Motorsport, obviously teammates with Cooper Webster, giving their congratulations as well. So nice to see they're all so close there. We've got all members of the paddock behind me. We've got a photographer in the background there, looking like he's having a fantastic time, getting some good shots as well. Obviously follow all the GB4 action on the social media. If you don't already, it will tell you all the reaction, any changes to any race results, which does sometimes happen, and of course it'll let you know as soon as we're ready to race the next time. We've got 2 more races coming up tomorrow. 9:45 is actually when we'll be building up to that second race of the weekend. Richard Randall from MSV is grabbing all the drivers now to take them to the podium, and Lewis McGlade will talk you through it.
And I certainly will. There's a lot to talk about in all of this as well. Of course, again, seeing the same 3 drivers on the podium for the 5th time this year. But there is another stat that I'm going to throw out here a little bit, and this might be a good one, might not be. It all comes down to tomorrow morning. Cooper Webster could be about to make history in the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, as this is his 5th consecutive podium in the championship. Now, only one driver has had 5 consecutive podiums before, and that, of all people, because people will be like, oh, surely it was Nicholas Taylor, surely it was Jared Wilburski towards the end of the season. No, it was Jack Sherwood, and he had 5 consecutive podiums. His race after that was a retirement. Is that an omen for Cooper Webster, or are things about to change? Is he going to take his 6th consecutive podium tomorrow? We'll have to wait and see. Either way, the first of those climbing onto the podium will be Colin Queen. And again, he had 3 consecutive 3rd place finishes back in Donington, then had a 13th in the final race. And of course, he'll be on to the podium in that 3rd position once again for the 5th time this year. Tom Mills takes 2nd place for only the 2nd time this year. Of course, he's got 5 victories. But then Cooper Webster takes
yet another podium. It is his 7th podium in the championship, but this time it is a victory. He's been building his way up to it as well. He had 2 third-place finishes over the first couple of rounds, then had a string of 4 consecutive runner-up positions back in Donington Park. We come into Snetterton, he takes pole position, and he looks strong. He's carrying that speed through. He started from pole position, he took the victory as well, and he's looking good for tomorrow. He'll be starting, again provisionally, from pole position once again. Only tomorrow, it's not pole position alongside Tom Mills. It is actually pole position alongside Colin Queen, who will be starting from 2nd place. Then Tom Mills will start from 3rd. Harry Burgoyne Jr. will start from 4th before we get Lucas Blakely, Liam McNeely, Jeremy Fairbairn, Ruhan Alva, Sid Smith, Jack Clifford rounding out the top 10, Aditya Kulkarni, Dylan Hotchin and Thomas Lee will be the order for tomorrow's race. Of course, all things being provisional, I'm sure a few things to look at from the race. I also agree, having heard from some of the drivers there, as much as from the angle that we saw, it might have been close to a jump start, it might have been this, might have been that. I think it was just a good start and it was just well timed. It was a brilliant effort from Cooper Webster, but he's only one of the drivers on the grid. The rest of them are about to be caught up with by Piers Pryor.
Happiest man in the paddock, Thomas Lee. Thomas, you're celebrating with your teammate Cooper Webster after an amazing drive, drove away from the field. But you yourself, of course, you're out there as well. You came out every time I see you out of the car, biggest smile ever. You mentioned last time you weren't as prepared as you wanted to be. This time out, a bit more?
Yeah. So I have to say, well, let's start off with traveling to Snetterton for the first time. So I literally landed on Thursday night, and then got back to the hotel about like midnight. So I'll be able to sleep. I was able to sleep for about 4 hours before Friday's 2-session practice. So, but luckily, as I mentioned before, I was able to do a little bit more sim this time. So, so I think adapting the circuit, it was a lot more fluent. But I do have to say it's definitely not enough. Yeah. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it out on Thursday, but spending time with kids, so yeah, so it is what it is.
Of course, but you mentioned you do quite a lot of practice in the sim, and then it helps you.
Yes.
Just a word on Lucas Blakely, who's of course F1 esports champion. Yeah, he literally popped in. Didn't know he was going to be racing this weekend. Fourth place on the grid. That must got to be pretty impressive.
It is very amazing. Yeah. So the crazy thing is, again, after I got here, I started looking at people's times, and I was looking at Lucas, and it was like, oh my goodness, because I follow him on Instagram, and I haven't gotten the chance to stop by and say hi. So I'm definitely going to do that after this. But yeah, I mean, apparently, Lucas has been doing sim for the longest time, and I mean, you see the result. So yeah, I promise next time I'm going to do more sim.
And then just quickly, yeah. Cooper Webster, your teammate, first win of the season.
Oh, what's that?
Yeah,
I mean, it is super amazing. I'm super happy for him. I mean, I have to say that when I first met Cooper for the first time, I mean, he was one of the greatest guys. So I'm so happy the fact that, again, because of them, because of the team, because of Cooper, I was able to, get to where I need to be, a lot quicker. So again, I appreciate all the amazing experiences and all that. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks for chatting to us, Thomas. We'll let you go off and celebrate with the rest of your people here. We've got Jack Clifford. Jack. Whoa, it's tough out there, isn't it, mate?
Yeah. No, that was a busy race, especially at the start. Like I reckon there was a pack of like 6 cars that were all jostling from white line to white line. So my start wasn't quite aggressive enough on the actual clutch dump, so I lost a little bit of time there, and then inherited a few spots, passed some, and then caught onto the Burgoyne Alva Fairbairn bunch. But then when I caught onto him, I ran wide, trying something different. So yeah, then it was just trying to get back into the rhythm, because I get into the rhythm a little bit late, so trying to get into that rhythm from the get-go. But okay race.
It's all the experience though, isn't it? Because again, a lot of the times you're racing here, it's the first time you've raced on these circuits, and you said you tried something a bit different. A lot of these drivers either might have tried it before in other championships, or even Tom, for example, your teammate, of course, was here last year, but talks about the racing. It looks really close, and I saw that, dropping 2 wheels off the curb, trying to find a space. It's really close, and it looks like the racing is like hard but fair.
Yeah, no, it was very fair. I mean, there was no contact from what I saw in the cockpit. But yeah, it seems very fair, very hard racing, which is good. It teaches us how to properly be in a good combat. But it was hard but fair. It was hell for leather.
Yeah, and then we're looking ahead tomorrow now. Of course, tomorrow we've got 2 races. We've got race 2 and then the reverse grid race 3. Weather's looking changeable. Does that play in your favour?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a bit of rain. That would be good. But it seems to when it seems it might rain, it's the cloud, it misses us. So we'll see. I mean, the weather will be the same for everyone, so I wouldn't mind a bit of rain. So we'll see what falls from the skies.
We will see. Well, thanks for chatting to us very much, and we'll catch you again tomorrow.
Thank you.
Nice one, Jack. Yeah, we're going to chat to Jack about his car that he was talking about on social media. He's bought a nice trusty old car for his long journeys. I've been trying to find other drivers, right? I haven't managed to find any other drivers. They've all gone into their debriefs. It's the end of the day here. I have found, everyone loves a mum. And I found Piers' mum. She's very proudly watching on here.
Just behind the camera.
We're not going to bring her on the camera. Oh, she's on the camera.
No. Okay, that's enough. That's enough.
And Piers is going to treat her to a very expensive meal tonight. Some more excellent racing there, Piers. For me, it's the same guys on the podium. They're so consistent, and it's a different order each time. And great for Cooper to get that victory.
Yeah, great to Cooper to get that victory. It's so good to see him again come over this season. New team. It's a new championship for him. He's raced some different things. He's been right there or thereabouts pretty much every round. But then he, staked his claim in qualifying, pole position by a couple of tenths, and then drove away at the front of the race. Just clearly got a very good start. We were umming and ahhing whether it was a jump in the comms box, but it looks like so far all good. Great to see that, and potentially even a good call on tyres, because as we mentioned, weather's going to be changeable tomorrow. He's used his 2 new tyres already. Maybe the other drivers won't get an opportunity to.
Yeah, well, you won't have seen this, and I'll let you into a secret. Basically, Piers has to go to our commentary box across the track. So there's a point where Piers will miss what's going on because you have to literally run across the track when it's safe to do so, of course. I asked Cooper, he was like, nah, the start was good. Tom was absolutely fine about it, and Colin Queen kind of was just like, well, I wasn't watching him, I was watching the lights. So I mean, I think from what we can see there, all the drivers are fairly happy that start was good. So amazing timing from Cooper there, and we'll look forward to seeing Cooper Webster on pole position tomorrow morning. The next race takes place at just starts at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. So join us from around about 9:40 to make sure you catch all of the pre-show as we continue with 2 more races in the GB4 Championship and also in the GB3 Championship here at Snetterton.